and welcome to the Abundology podcast. My name is Renee Spears, and I'm here with Jenelle Woodlief. And you are an empowered body worker, which includes so many things. A few of them being a massage therapist, a motivational speaker, personal coach. You pretty much do it all.
I do.
And I'm excited to have you here today because you have had some radical radical changes in your life in the past, year, 2 years, and an amazing story. And I don't want to say awakening, but a story from where your life was to where you are now took a lot of change. And I think that you can share with us, some of the things that happened to you and how you view them and how they have made you this fabulous person that you are today.
Thank you. I would love to share. And every time I sit down and I think about this, where do I start? I'll start a year ago. So a year ago, I was a stay-at-home mom. I had an 18-month-old, 5-year-old, and we had just gotten a new puppy.
Oh, wow.
All the things. And I started to notice that my husband was acting strange. And it went on for about a week before it was like, there's something going on. And he didn't want to talk about it. And the more I pushed or pressed, the more he really shut down.
Yeah.
And so I knew there was something wrong. And a little bit of the backstory is my now ex-husband is an addict and an alcoholic. And so we've gone through, years of relapses and recovery. He's been sober for a few years, which is wonderful. He does that, solid work on his recovery.
Yeah, good for him. Yeah.
But at the same time, there's always that risk of relapse. And so when he started acting so strange, that's immediately where my mind went.
That's where my mind would go to, of course. Yeah.
And I remember at one point that week, I said to a girlfriend, there's something going on. He must have relapsed. I guess maybe he could be having an affair, but let's sort of pass through my mind.
Yeah.
But he would never do that.
Yeah.
Well,
he did that.
He did that.
Oh, wow.
And he wasn't going to tell me.
Oh, wow.
He was just
just going to have it and then just go on with life.
He was going to leave me.
Oh my.
So he had been kind of building up to this. And it wasn't until, he started acting really strange and I got very suspicious. And I'll preface this statement by saying that I'm not a suspicious person and I've never been one to violate someone's privacy.
Right.
But the state and the health of my family was in question, and he didn't want to share with me what was going on. And I can't tell you how many relapses I went through where big things like that came up, but he wasn't going to tell me. They surfaced.
Right.
And so I snooped. And I found a Facebook conversation that he was having with someone where he shared what was going on. And his mistress at that time was a coworker. They'd worked together for a couple years, and I knew her and her family. She had 2 young kids, or has 2 young kids too. And my husband had invited them to our beach house. So as their relationship was kind of, I don't know that it was physical at that point,
right.
But it was still a relationship. And so we vacationed with them.
Wow.
And so this was a woman I knew.
Yeah.
And did not suspect it at all.
Right.
And it broke me. I felt broken. And I know now that I wasn't.
Right.
But that is how I described it even then. I couldn't function. I was so devastated. I never thought that would happen. Everything, all the pain in my life got triggered by that one event. And I spent 2 months like barely being able to breathe. Like, I mean, even now, just
Yeah, I can
subconsciously.
see your hand on your
Yeah.
chest. Yes.
And I couldn't go to sleep at night. I couldn't function, and I had, two little boys who were depending on me, and my husband left. He left that day.
Oh, so the day that you found out is the day that he actually left.
So I found out, and I called him and was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, totally.
And so he came home, and he came in the house, and I was sitting on the sofa, and he walked into the dining room, took a dining room chair over and set it right in front of me, and slowly sat down. Told me, picked up my phone, called my best friend, put it on speaker, set the phone down on my lap, and walked out.
Oh my goodness.
And for 2 months, I had no idea where he was living. He stayed at his parents' for a couple weeks, and he came over and saw the boys occasionally. But I just struggled.
Of course. As anybody
For
would
2
in that
months.
situation. Yes.
And it brought up all this stuff that I'd been holding on to for the years of our marriage, going through all of this all these difficult challenges. And I had not developed the tools that I needed to love and care for myself. I had given myself completely to this man and our children and this life together. And even though it was hard, and I really, especially now, I wasn't happy.
Right.
And really, this is the best thing that
Right.
could have happened to me. But I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared to put myself on the front burner. And I sort of got thrown into the fire.
Yeah. So after you had these grieving, really, for the first couple of months in shock, we everybody listening has been there.
Yeah.
At some point in their life, with a death, with a relationship, something. We have all been there, and we all right now are like, oh yes, I remember when I was feeling like that too.
Oh, God, yeah.
So then, because your life is so fantastic now with your business and what you're doing, how did you pick yourself up and move on?
It was a slow process.
Yeah.
The first thing that I did was I decided that I couldn't go back to a job.
Got it.
My career before I got married, before I stayed home with kids, was my background is in health research and academia. So I taught at Oregon State. I was getting my PhD, and I was just miserable, absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
And I won't go into like what led me to the change, but I had a business before I stayed home with my first son, and so I was a massage therapist, and I was very comfortable with that label because that's really what I was.
Yeah.
But then when my son was born, or when I was pregnant with my son, I found out about my husband's addiction.
Oh wow.
So he'd gotten very, very dependent on painkillers.
Okay.
Like to the point where he couldn't taper off himself.
Oh, okay.
Like bad.
Yeah.
And so that, started off a very unhealthy, codependent relationship with my family where I was lost. I didn't even know who I was. And so realizing that I needed to recover from that.
Yes.
But that I also had to start shedding my scarcity mindset.
Yes.
And the fear that I couldn't support myself doing my own thing.
Yes.
And so at first I felt like such a victim. Like, oh, I've got to go back to this career that I hated and made me depressed and suicidal and all these things. But then slowly, it didn't happen overnight. At first it was, okay, maybe I can do my business part-time. Okay, maybe I need to just start thinking about it. Okay, one step at a time. And eventually, I said, fuck that. There's way more risk in going back to a job and a career that sucked my soul.
Yes.
That's the real risk.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I slowly began to believe in myself and believe in the gifts that I have to share with the world. And kind of my first step was I joined a networking group of women. And so I started, and it was just virtual because I wasn't like at that point where I could like go out and be seen.
Right.
You know, like,
yeah, sure.
But it happened slowly, and all of a sudden I realized, like, no, I can do this. I have a lot to give, and that's what I'm going to do. So shedding like that victim mindset, that scarcity mindset, the fear of taking risks on myself, right? Because that's like what I do. I'm trusting
Yes.
that I'm capable.
Yes.
And not just capable of supporting myself and my children, but capable of building something that is going to change the world.
Right.
But that trust did not happen naturally. That trust in the universe took time.
Yeah.
And it took little baby steps of, okay, I am so uncomfortable right now, and there's nothing I can do about these circumstances. I don't know how the divorce is going to play out.
Yep.
I don't know. And there were lots of details about the divorce and our financial situation and like me being home with kids, lots of uncertainty. And so months and months, I had to just sit with that uncertainty.
Right.
And start to trust in the process of my rebuilding and trust that I will figure it out and that I just have to keep doing the things that feel aligned. And so just one thing at a time. And
that's such a good point right there. Just do the things that feel aligned. Mm-hmm. Do the things that make you feel good.
Yeah.
You know, that's such a key. It's so simple,
yeah,
but such a major key of having a wonderful life and keeping yourself on the path. Yeah.
Well, I think it's also a matter of, okay, you have to know yourself.
Oh, yeah.
You have to know what your strengths and what are the things that you need to work on, and also how you want to show up in the world. And like once you have that basic idea, or what a lot of people call your why.
Yes.
Right? Like your why statement can be why you're in business, but more like how you express yourself in the world and what your values are, mm-hmm. and what you bring to the world.
Right.
And so once like that starts to get established, and that's really what in the beginning it was, okay, how is it that I want to move about in the world? And once you have that, then everything else falls into
amazing.
that.
It's amazing how it just kind of falls into place. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So once I got through a lot of the really hard stuff, no, I definitely wasn't through it. But once I sort of like found my feet.
Yeah. Yes.
And knew what to hold on to.
Yes.
Right? Like I knew what was solid. I was really good at getting support. I was really good at talking about it and asking for what I needed, asking for help. And so once I started to do that, I could see that it's so crazy to talk about it all at once. Once I could see that I kind of had things under control.
Yes.
And that I could weather the storm, then I could start taking a step forward. But in the very beginning, I remember I'm very visual, and I'm very, like I see metaphors in life. And I remember when that day happened, for a long time I called it D-Day, Discovery Day. I felt like I'd been plunged like into this cave.
Okay.
but and I was there for a good couple months, but eventually I realized that I wasn't in a cave, I was in a tunnel. And at first I couldn't see where to go. Like I was fumbling along, but I started to see that there were little lanterns along the way, and just moving towards those and then holding on to like the sides and like kind of just meandering my way through.
Like feeling your way through.
Yes.
Yeah.
And trusting
Yeah. That there was a way through.
that there was a way through.
Yeah.
And I just had to follow the things that, that felt aligned. And I made my way through.
Yeah, you sure did. You did it. Which this is such a good reminder for those of us, which is everybody listening, that has had a traumatic thing happen to us. Like I said, like a death or a divorce or whatever it may be. There's so many other things that it could be. And you feel like you can't go on. Like you are dead. Like I just died. But here you are, still alive, the next day having to deal with it, and move on. And unfortunately, or fortunately, because I heard you say, that was, one of the best things that has happened to you. And I look at the death of my husband like that, when he passed away, clearly I can relate of like, oh my God, what do I move on from here? As I think of one of the worst things that happened to me. But other ways, it was the best thing that happened to me. It got me back on my path, where I should be going. It set up the whole entire rest of my life, which has been fabulous. Yeah. Which is a similar thing for you. Having this experience, without it, you would not be where you are now.
I would not. My experience not just had helped me find my path, it forged my path.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
And I would most definitely not be where I am. I mean, most of us can say that,
Yes.
our life experiences shape where we are, but this is a year ago.
A year ago,
I was dysfunctional. I was not functioning. I was not sleeping. I was not eating. I was not fully present with my boys.
Right.
I was doing the best I could, and I'm still a great mom. And but to look at that is just a year ago. Today, I don't even know that person.
Yeah. Which is I love milestones like that. One of the things I really like Facebook for is that memories. A year ago, you were here. 3 years ago, you were here. That is such a great way to look back and go, oh my goodness, look at how much I have grown in just a year or 2 years, 3 years, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. Now, we talked a little bit about self-care. Mm-hmm. When you showed up, because I was like asking, how did you get out of this? And you brought up radical self-care. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean to you?
Well,
and how do you practice that? We can all learn something from this.
Oh, I love that question because I think about it all the time. When I say radical self-care, I mean my existence is around loving and caring for myself, and the decisions that I make fall under that umbrella of allowing me to thrive in the world. And so I'm very conscious of how I spend my time, who I surround myself with, the decisions around what I do to get help in the world, right? Like sometimes I send my laundry out to be done.
Wonderful.
Sometimes I don't do anything on my weekend without the boys, but take naps.
Wonderful.
And sometimes I don't do my dishes. So those like more kind of vague or abstract notions of self-care, right? But they're really about freeing up time that allows me to love and nurture myself with the things that fuel me. And so, I'm ruthless with my time. I'm good at saying no, and saying no to all sorts of things, not just the activities that I do, but also like I don't watch TV because it doesn't serve a purpose.
Right.
And no judgment
Oh, yeah.
at all to anyone who does.
Yeah, because for some people, watching TV is
is
their time to be able to
fueling.
relax.
Absolutely.
And they learn. So everybody's just so different.
Yeah.
But knowing that about yourself and knowing for you that it doesn't serve a purpose for you, so I'm not going to waste my time doing that, being intentional.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, you know, the other thing that is a big part of my life is I surround myself with people who inspire me and celebrate me. And, you know, over time, that has allowed me to celebrate myself. And so when I have to take downtime and I have to refuel and I have to check out, because there are times I check out.
There's times everybody checks out. And it's one of those things in our society that we don't even acknowledge.
Yeah.
We all need a break.
Yeah.
It's impossible to be super whomever, you know, super mom, super dad, whatever it may be,
Absolutely.
without refueling, without taking a break and refueling.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, a lot of people don't believe this, but I am very introverted. I'm so connected with the people that I care about, and I can sit and talk to you, and I am very open with my life and my feelings, and I can be fully vulnerable, and I can do lots of activity, but I need lots of recovery time.
Yes.
And it's taken, you know, a lifetime to be able to see those things that I need in order to fully show up. And so it's simple as when I'm scheduling my days or my weeks, I have to build in that time in between things.
Right.
Because if I have a day, and Thursday was like this. The whole day was just boom, 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 boom. And I got to mid-afternoon and it was like, oh no, I'm going to shut down. And I had to cancel one of my meetups. And luckily it was a friend who was very supportive. But I got down to my parking garage and I didn't have my key to get into the garage. And it was like, okay, I just need to sit. And so it's those little reminders that I have to build in that time, and it has to be intentional, and because I need time to recover before I show back up in the world. Because I give and I give. Like, that's the nature of what I do. I believe in empowering the people around me. I'm fully present with most of my interactions.
Most of the times, yeah.
But I can't do that if my cup is empty.
Yes.
And so I have become very good at keeping my cup full. And when it starts to get a little low, then I know what to do to fill it back up.
Yes. Yeah. That is one of the things that I've learned doing this job is I can't share my energy if I have no energy.
Oh, yeah.
So I chose, of course, a job where I need to make sure that not only my energy is up, but that my higher vibrating abundance energy is always up.
Yes.
Because that is what I'm sharing, and I can't help anybody, including myself, if I don't keep it there. Right. So I'm similar to you. I can only do 3 appointments a day because I need time. Then I need the rest of the half of the day to replenish my energy so I have it for the next people.
Yes.
And for myself, of course, clearly.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that's really powerful about what I talk about as my radical self-care is I've built a business that fuels me. I've built a business that helps me fill my cup. And so an example of this is I can be feeling overwhelmed. I can be feeling sad, all the things that come with being a single mom and adjusting to life after divorce and all those things. But the work that I do, connecting with people and serving people through massage, that's my primary tool for how I give back to the world. It fuels me so immensely. And it takes, conscious effort to say, okay, I've got to set my stuff aside, for this 90 minutes, it's about this other person.
Right.
And I'm also moving my body, and I'm connecting with someone, and my sessions are all about them, right? Like, I don't share my own stuff.
Right.
It's all about them. It's serving.
Exactly.
And it utilizes my brain in like the best ways. Like, I could have a conversation just on this. But like, so my brain is fully utilized. My body is utilized. And so just the practice of doing what is so aligned with how I naturally want to show up in the world, I always feel so much more energized and connected after I give a session.
That's wonderful, because so many people think of their work as draining, instead of filling them up. And if that's the case, you really perhaps should take a look at other things that you could do in the world that would fill you up.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's no way to live.
No.
To be looking forward till Friday at 5:00.
Right.
So you get 2 days where you don't have to be there. That is not a way to live.
No.
Yeah. So yeah, I completely understand.
Yeah.
Well, this has been lovely. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing something that we can all relate to, and putting it in such kind words, and the story that we can all relate to. And then the fact that you are coming through this and practicing this radical self-care, that even if we didn't have experiences like this, that we should be practicing, that would make our lives so much better.
And that's like one of my passions, is helping people develop these tools so that when the earthquake happens, right, like they have the scaffolding.
Yes.
They're prepared for it. It's still going to be hard.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, those big things are still going to be hard. But when you have the practice and the tools to choose yourself every day, to love yourself and to be gentle and know what fills you up, then it's so much more manageable, and you can see the gratitude in it so much easier, and see that light at the end of the tunnel, and all of those things that help you thrive.
So well put. Thank you so much, Jenelle.
Thank you.